everyone, and welcome back. As always, I am your girl, Candy Washington, and we are going to have a fun kiki about the latest episode and all things Real Housewives of Dubai. Yeah, I'm going to have some unpopular opinions about this. So whether you agree or whether you disagree, we can still have a fun kiki. But before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss it when we go live. And you can show your thanks by giving super chat, super thanks, and everything else that is linked below. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome to Sugar Pills, a practical guide to self-care, where your host, writer, actor, and producer Candy Washington helps you live a more joyful life with a cheeky dash of pop culture news. Be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and join the conversation on Instagram at Candy Washington. Let's go!
All right, you guys, we are back. So yes, I know that I've been seeing, well, let's back up a bit. So from the very beginning, there has been a lot of people who sort of, stand for Chanel Iman. They love her. They're saying she's the breakout star. They're just living for her. I haven't really been the biggest Chanel Iman fan. I don't dislike her, but I don't get the hype. I don't get the, whoa, she's amazing, these one-liners, period, point blank, and blah, 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 and all this stuff. I always felt that she was like putting on a show. And I get it, it's reality TV. I get it that, they want the camera time and to be in the press and all of that stuff. But there still has to be a level of authenticity that's there. So I do like the fact, hey, Miss T, what's up? She goes, hello, got a break at work, so let's do this. Yes, I love it. Hey, Velda. That's right, Candy Canes. As these come in, drop in and say hello and say hello. So yes, you guys, like I said, I might have some unpopular opinions, but hopefully you agree. But if you don't, you can always give your opinion too, and we can get into it and just have a really fun kiki. But I've been seeing everyone being like, oh, Chanel Iman deserved better. Karen Stanberry was, weaponizing her white woman tears, all of this stuff, this, that, and the third. And I disagree. But let's get into it. Hey, Darren, what's up? Darren says, hey, Candy Canes. Love all the ladies and fashions from the reunion. Well, a few of them. Yeah, we'll get into that when the reunion comes up. Because I think this was the episode right before the finale. So we'll have the finale and the reunion, right? All right, so let's get into it. So I want to preface what I'm going to say with compassion. Because I do think that Chanel Iman has gone through a lot of trauma in her life. And I really want to applaud her for being brave enough to talk about it, put it on the show, the female genital mutilation that she went through. That is horrible. Her father being very abusive, physically, mentally, and emotionally, her feeling like, her father favored her sister over her and like all of that stuff. So I get that, right? I get that. I want to be very compassionate towards her. However, we got to call a thing a thing. Chanel is really, in my opinion, she's really projecting her own insecurities, her own traumas, and her own lack of self-worth and love onto Caroline Stanberry. And also sometimes Sarah, but I think they're getting on a better foot, and it also happens with Caroline. Which is why you'll see sometimes Chanel will just like pop off and get triggered and react. And then in the next breath, she's like, okay, well, maybe I took it the wrong way. Okay, it's fine. Like, we're good again. But then the cycle like repeats and repeats and it repeats and repeats. So I do think a lot of what's going on with Chanel Iman is rooted in her unhealed childhood trauma. And I actually think that a lot of the times, and hopefully she is on her healing journey, but to me, and I've said this from day one, when I see Chanel and she's like, I'm a beautiful Black woman, I am amazing, I am the best, I am this, that, I said it in 5 languages, it all rings very hollow to me. Like, what she is saying in and of itself sounds great. And you're like, yes, girl, you're a beautiful Black woman. You're a model. You're from Africa. You do it. Like, that in and of itself is great. And that is good. And you should have that. But it rings hollow because I don't think she actually believes it. I don't think that I don't think she believes it internally. I think it's a front that she wears. It's like, thou dost protest too much. It's like, if you're constantly saying, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing, you're this, that, and the third, but then you're constantly being triggered and popping off on people and being in a very codependent relationship with Lisa and sort of feeling like you have to defend her at all times and kind of do her dirty work on the low. Because I actually agree with Brooks on that, but I'll get to where I think Brooks messed up and what Brooks' missed opportunity was, but we'll get to that. Then to me, I'm like, well, there's that disconnect, right? You're saying you're confident and you believe in yourself, but that's not what is actually translating, if that makes sense. And I don't think it's malicious. I don't think it's coming from a bad place. I don't think she is trying to be manipulative, like, oh, I'm going to pop off and then do this and then blame. I really just think it's from a place of her own unhealed wounds. I don't think it's malicious. I don't even think it's calculated. I think a lot of it is subconscious. A lot of times when we have that unhealed trauma and those unhealed wounds and we react and we get triggered and we do things, we're not doing it purposely. We're just doing it from our own subconscious unhealing. And that is where I think Chanel Iman really is. I think, hopefully she's done more therapy because, she said on the show she had never gone to therapy until she did the hypnotherapy stuff. So hopefully she stays in therapy and she really heals. And now I say that because now I want to break down, the infamous scene where they were at the dinner table when they were at, the girls' trip or whatever, and what happened between her and Caroline Stanbury. I'm not going to blame editing because I've been watching some reviews and some people are like, oh, something must have been edited out and all of that. I don't think so. I think what we saw was what happened. And there was a big disconnect between what Chanel heard and what Stanbury actually said. Now, Chanel was like, you asked me what I did like 3 times. And I didn't want to have to keep explaining myself to you. And I have to keep proving who I am to you. I'm more than just a model. I'm more than just this. But truth be told, watching the scene, in that particular moment, because I'm only going to talk about what we saw because that's the only thing we can really go on. In that particular moment, the conversation wasn't about you, Chanel. You inserted yourself in a conversation that had nothing to do with you. If we're gonna be really honest, Chanel, no one was talking about you. The conversation was around Stanbury was talking about Brooks and how Brooks was getting investments in her business from her ex-husband and her ex-boyfriend. And Caroline was saying, if you can maneuver that, if you can get, your ex-boyfriend and your ex-husband to invest in you, then you should do it. Like, why not? And Brooks was like, yeah, thank you, And then Sarah was more like, well, why are you getting, money from a man? You don't need to depend on a man. You're your own woman. You can stand on yourself. You can depend on a man. And then Chanel was triggered because Chanel was in her own stuff. And she felt like she had to defend her value and her worth, being like, no, I'm more successful. No, I have this and that. Well, no, I'm a model. I have this. Yeah, sure, I get money from my husband, but I do this and this. And that's why everyone was just like cringe overreaction, because Chanel jumped to defending herself when the truth is no one was even addressing you, Chanel. You inserted yourself into the situation. You know what I mean? And so I think that that's kind of where it was going on. But let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box, and then we can continue with everything that's going on. Hey, Miss T, Chanel had her husband saved on her phone as Daddy Cool. I thought of you immediately. Yes, because I'm like, eesh. Hey, Miss T, Chanel has a lot of trauma, but I didn't think it was a Black thing. Exactly, 100%. I'm happy you said that. Let's get into that, and I'll do more of everybody's comments. I agree 100%. It had nothing to do with race. And this is the thing. Everyone's like, oh, her white tears. And then Chanel was like, oh, I made a white woman cry. And everybody's talking about white fragility and, as a Black woman, we have to struggle. And then even the girls on the show, I thought we're conflating two different things, right? They're like, as Black women, we have to, we have to be strong. We can't show emotions. When Caroline is crying, everybody coddles her, but nobody cares about Ayan's feelings, which isn't true at all. When Ayan gets upset, she gets coddled by everybody too, as I think everyone should when they're upset. But I think that they're conflating two different issues. One, does the trope and the stereotype and the pressure and the trauma of having to be a strong Black woman and not being able to be vulnerable and fragile and get support, is that a real issue and problem? 1000%. Was that the problem here? Absolutely not. It had Chanel popping off because of her own personal trauma and insecurity. And I'm not trying to be insensitive, because I identify a lot with Chanel. I think I totally get her 100%. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful, and I'm not trying to diminish the trauma she's gone through and the healing that needs to happen. But I also want to be objective. And I don't think that the reason why Chanel and Caroline Stanberry were going at it at that table had anything to do with the Black woman being strong stereotype. I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think that Chanel gets triggered by Caroline for whatever. I'll tell you why I think she does. I think Chanel gets triggered by Caroline. I don't think it has anything to do with race. I think because Caroline comes across, and I'm not saying Caroline is perfect, because trust me, Caroline has her own issues. I think Caroline also has her own set of insecurities and her own set of traumas, 100%. But I think that Caroline comes across as very confident, very secure in herself, which I think she is. But of course, we all have our stuff. And I think that is what triggers Chanel, is that she feels like she has to continuously prove to people with Caroline personality types that she's worthy and that she's enough. The same reason, think about it, when Sarah was, love her or hate her, dislike her or not, when Sarah was doing her thing, when she was talking about what she was doing in her accolades, Chanel had an attitude with Sarah about that. Oh, Sarah talks down to us. Sarah thinks she's better. No, Sarah was just talking about what she was going through and what was happening in her life. And Chanel even had an attitude when Chanel and her husband went to Sarah's event, or, it was like that humanitarian event. And Chanel was like clapping extra loud and being like, woo, but you could tell she was like putting on a show. Again, I think that Chanel gets triggered by seeing other women stand in their success and in their confidence and in that type of way when they're alpha, which is why we see Chanel being very, very beta to Lisa. They are in a very codependent relationship, right? Lisa clearly is the alpha, Chanel is the beta. And I agree with what Brooke said, but we're going to get into Brooks. And I'm going to tell you why I think Brooks really had a missed opportunity. So I agree with what Brooke said in the confessionals about Chanel and Lisa's friendship is a bit codependent. It is a bit codependent, and it is a bit lopsided. And I do agree with the fact that Chanel feels like she does have to continuously build up Lisa, and she has to continuously go to bat for Lisa. And a lot of that is baked into the Caroline Stanberry stuff too, because to me, Lisa is truly confident in who she is. And she is holding a grudge against Caroline Stanberry for the suck the D comment and for Caroline not going to her fashion event. And so I do think she's holding a grudge against Caroline for that. Because remember in the confessionals a couple episodes ago, she goes, well, now she has a problem with me. Now we have the problem. And I don't think she's ever let that go or forgiven that, right? So I think that that's a lot of what is going on there. But I hate it when they conflate issues. What's going on with Chanel and what's going on with Caroline has nothing to do with being a strong Black woman or the stereotype or anything like that. I don't see the race card in this, if that makes sense. Not card, but you know what I mean. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. Hey, Young Rich Daddy. Ayan reminds me of Cynthia. She's very delicate and softer than what she tries to put on. 100%. And they have very similar personalities. They have very similar codependent personalities. Like you see Cynthia always being beta to like a Kenya or a Nene or to Carson Kressley, whatever his name was. Like and then they also have the very similar thing where they feel like they have to continuously fight on the behalf of windmill for their bestie, do all of that. And like we see it all the time. Chanel basically like finishes her sentences and all of that stuff. Let's see what you guys are saying. Miss T says Brooks is too fake. She really has no loyalty. All right, so let's get into Brooks. Very good point. Let's get into Brooks. So, oh, hi, Randa. Randa says hi. Yay. And then Miss T says Chanel did understand what Caroline was trying to say. Chanel didn't get the money from a man. Honestly, we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one. I don't think Chanel actually understood what Caroline was trying to say, because Chanel was talking about one thing. Caroline was talking about Brooks and getting it from the ex, and she went off the deep end. And based on what Chanel has said herself, and I'm only repeating what Chanel has said herself, she did get the money from her man. She said that her husband paid the family $1,000 for her. So where did she get the money from to start her stuff? If it wasn't through that, and I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking that at all. But like, where did Chanel, it's not like Chanel went off and worked, became a model and did this stuff and then met her husband. She's told us multiple times on the show, and I get it's a cultural thing, and I'm not slamming anybody's culture. I'm not judging anybody's culture, but she has made it a point to tell us multiple times how her husband saved her and how he paid $1,000 for her. So where did she get the money if it wasn't from her husband? If that makes sense. But this is the thing. I think the problem is where Chanel is getting the disconnect is that it's okay to get support from your husband. It's okay, to depend on your spouse or your partner. It doesn't mean you're not successful. It doesn't mean you're less worthy. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. I think Chanel within herself, no matter how much money or success or outside love she gets, until she heals herself, she's not going to internally feel good enough. So then she's going to continuously be triggered and lash out to other people. What Sarah was saying about not being dependent on the man, she was talking to Brooks, because again, Chanel inserted herself in the conversation. Caroline was on Brooks' side. Sarah was saying more like, don't be dependent on the man. Why are you getting money from men that you say you had these traumatic relationships with? And then we see Chanel being like, well, I'm not dependent on a man. I do this and I have this and I have all these businesses, and she just flipped in. We have to go back and watch. Miss T, Caroline was so confused. Yeah, she was confused. We were all confused because it was like, what happened? Miss T, Sergio is a plant. Sergio. We're going to get into Sergio. We're going to get into Sergio because Sergio, him showing up was scary and just a hot mess. Unhealthy dynamics, not cool. Hey, Randa, Chanel did an interview with Vulture magazine that sheds light on some of the dynamic between her and Caroline S. Yes, so I saw that in Vulture. No. Because this is the thing. What Chanel said in Vulture was what we all already knew from jump. If you watch, go back and watch episode 1. Caroline Stanberry already said, I don't like to be around Chanel. I don't want to, I don't really get along with her well. From the very beginning of the show, it was very clear that Chanel and Caroline Stanberry weren't friends and that they didn't have this connection. But then over the episodes, they would try, fall back. And Caroline said in those episodes herself, she was just like, I can't talk to her. It's really hard to talk to her. You don't know how she's going to react. That's why I can talk to you, all of this stuff. So to be honest, what Chanel said in the Vulture magazine regarding Caroline Stanberry, like, we kind of already knew. Do I think it's wrong for Caroline to be like, I don't want to film with her, or I wasn't going to film with her? If that is true, yes, I think that's wrong. So I want to be very clear. I'm not standing for Caroline Stanberry. I'm not condoning what she does at all or anything like that, but I'm also trying to actually be really objective about what's going on. And particularly with what actually happened, you know? And it's also like Chanel already knew all what she said in the Vulture magazine. Then why were you trying to build a friendship with Caroline? You know, you guys were trying to build a friendship. This is what I think happened. I think Chanel in that moment got triggered and she lashed out, point blank, period. That's what happened. And now, like a lot of the housewives do, a lot of reality stars do, a lot of people in real life do, then you want to find things to justify your overreaction. Oh no, Caroline said she didn't want to film with me. Oh, why would she say anything nice to me? Oh, blah, 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 blah. No, Chanel, in the moment, you simply just got triggered, which is okay. You're a human being. You've gone through a lot. You are allowed to react the way you react. You're allowed to be triggered. You're allowed to still have to heal some stuff. Like, that's what I think she's missing. I think she's missing the fact that it's okay to be human. Nobody's expecting you to be perfect. And if you need to work on your self-love and your self-esteem so these things don't trigger you so much, that is okay. That is what I'm saying. I just think in the moment she got triggered and overreacted. I don't think it had anything to do with black women versus white women. I don't think it had anything to do with her previous beef with Caroline Stanberry that has been happening months and months and months, and they were on a good page. I don't think it had to do with any of that. I think the simple fact is, you know, it's like they say in school that the simplest answer is usually the correct one. I think it's just that simple. The girls were having a conversation. Chanel got triggered and she kind of irrationally a little bit lashed out. And that's it. That's it. But like the bigger spin of it, I don't know. But I do want to applaud Chanel for sharing her story about what happened to her when she was younger. Because again, that is hella traumatic, and I would wish that on no one. And I'm happy that she is shedding a light on it and everything. Hey, Randa says we see only a snippet of hours of filming. I still don't understand what Stanberry was saying. So what? Okay, my interpretation, and then we'll get into Brooks. My interpretation of what Stanberry was saying was the conversation really was between Stanberry, Brooks, and Sarah. Stanberry was saying to Brooks, hey, listen, if you can get your ex-husband and your ex-boyfriend to invest in your business, you do that, right? That's okay. And then she was saying, that is the context of what Stanberry is talking about. Sarah then says, no, you shouldn't be dependent on a man. Why are you going to these men who you claim who cheated on you, who had all this traumatic experience for money? You know, you're your own woman. You can get your money yourself. You don't need a man. That was the conversation. Then Chanel came in and was just like, well, you know, my husband gives me money. I get it, but I also do this and I do that and I do that and I do that. And Carolyn was kind of like, what? Like, where is this coming from? She's like, that's not what I'm saying. But basically what she was saying was, she's like, there's a difference between being dependent and an investment. That's what Caroline was saying. She was talking about what the initial conversation was. And the reason why it's confusing is because the initial conversation was about Brooks, not Chanel. Chanel then inserted herself and then it popped off. And then that's when Caroline was like, well, I'm saying if a man wants to invest in you, let him invest. I'm not saying being dependent on him. And then Chanel went to her whole thing about like, I'm not dependent. I have my husband. I have all these businesses. I have this. I have that. I am more than a model. I'm more successful than you are and all of that stuff, right? And again, I'm not justifying anything Caroline has said, but I think Caroline got upset because Caroline had her own business. It was called the Gifting Library. And it went bankrupt and it shut. And she was very traumatized by that because, you know, she had to lay off employees. She had to, you know, fall into default with all the investors and everything. So we have to remember, and I'm not talking about, you know, white fragility and who's or whatever. I'm just talking about, like, I don't even think that is a part of the conversation. We can't say Chanel has trauma, and so we give her a pass, but then dismiss the trauma that other women have too. Because again, I don't think it was like a black or white thing. So that's right. Hit the like button. Okay, now let's get into Brooks real quick. Brenda says we all have misunderstand people and popped off. Doesn't necessarily mean we all have trauma. No. You could easily misunderstand someone and pop off. However, based on what Chanel has said on the show, she has a lot of trauma. She talked about her father beating her mother crying, her genital female circumcision, almost being married off to a man when she was 14 years old. So she has talked about her own trauma and how all of that has led to how she feels about herself. And I think contextually in this situation, and it's also not just a one-off. Chanel does this a lot. If you watch the season, Chanel does this a lot. And usually when you misunderstand what someone and you pop off, it is rooted in your own trauma, big T or little t. Like, the way that you communicate, the way that you respond to things. Of course, we're all human beings and we've all at times overreacted, popped off, misunderstood, all of that stuff, of course. But it's rooted in something. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with us. It doesn't mean that, we're not good enough or whatever it is. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It just means you're a human being. You know what I mean? That's really all it means. Miss T, Chanel also has a language barrier. I honestly, again, we're going to have some unpopular opinions, guys. I agree with what the girls were saying. Chanel has been married to an American man for 17, 18 years. And like they said, she understands when she wants to understand, and she's confused when she wants to be confused. Chanel also lives in Dubai, which is where they primarily they're speaking English, So I don't know. Hey Randa, if you could choose to read the article, there's a reason. And if you choose to read that, in my opinion, why she reacts the same way the way she does. I did. I saw no. I read the article. I read it. I read the article. I get it. Again, I don't think that Chanel is special in this. I think that a lot of housewives, celebrities, people, when they do pop off, then go and justify why they popped off. I think what she's doing is PR. That's why it's in a magazine. PR placement is in magazine. I think it's PR. And this is another thing. I understand why she reacts to Stanberry, but that's not Stanberry's fault. And it's not about being the strong black woman, and it's not about white fragility. That's more of what I'm saying. Like, I think the conversation, I think they're conflating the issues. So let's get into the Brooks thing, which is why I want to say how they're conflating the issues, right? So the conversation between Lisa, Ayan, and Brooks about, being the strong black woman, not being able to be vulnerable, those stereotypes, always having to prove yourself, always having to prove your value, and all of that, I think 100% is true and 100% is valid. I think that is real. I think that is a real thing. I've dealt with it. I'm sure we've all dealt with it. That is true. So I believe that is true. But I don't think that applies to this particular situation. And the reason why I think Brooks had a missed opportunity is because I actually think Brooks had a lot of good insights into Chanel, why she reacts, her own trauma, her own stuff, the codependent relationship that she has with Lisa. I actually agree with a lot of what she was saying. I think the problem is that don't get in Ayan and Lisa's face and talk about the plight of the black woman. And then behind the back in the confessional and into Stanberry, break down your, diagnosis of Chanel's, trauma and what's going on with her and why she reacts and all of that stuff and the codependency that she has. Brooks had a missed opportunity. I think if Brooks at least tried to actually talk to Chanel about what she was saying behind her back in the confessional and to Caroline, without being accusatory, without being disrespectful. Like, we don't need the Brooks being like, Chanel, get your butt out of Lisa's, get your head out of Lisa's butt, stop licking Lisa's butt like she did, the episode before. Not that. But if you actually said, hey, friend, listen, I see that sometimes you get triggered by this stuff. I see that sometimes, you get a little bit, clingy with Lisa in these ways. Let's talk about it. Let's unpack it. Coming from a place of genuine friendship, of genuine support, rather than conflating the two issues. Because I don't think that they are related. I don't think the two issues are related. I think a lot of the women see, they just don't say it to her face, what's really going on internally with Chanel. Everything she talked about to that therapist, I think is really still on her, which is 100% understandable. People carry trauma from childhood sometimes to their dying day. I'm not saying she's going to or you have to, but there are people who could be 85 years old and they're still suffering from what happened to them when they were 6 or 7, right? And I think some of the women can see, some of the women can care that Chanel has been carrying that. What she said broke my heart. I was crying right along with her when she was talking about everything. And it did put into context why she reacts to people the way she does. And I think that is more of what the actual issue is, less than this beef with Stansberry. I think the reason why she has the beef with Stansberry is because she pops off and reacts to a personality like a Stansberry the way she does. And again, I'm not saying Stansberry's an angel. I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying she hasn't done shady stuff. I'm not saying she hasn't been messy. Of course she has. She's on the show. She's a reality TV star. They've all been messy. They've all been this stuff. So this is by no means me being like Caroline Stanberry's amazing and great and right and Chanel's wrong. That's not what I'm saying by any means. I'm just saying that I think a lot of the tension and the drama and the misunderstandings and the miscommunications is rooted in that. And of course she's going to do an article in Vulture or another magazine or a PR release to justify her overreaction and her being triggered by Stansberry. Like, that's just good PR. Like, of course you're going to do that. They all do that. They all on the shows, once the episode airs, they'll have like page 6 says blah, blah, blah about this housewife, this says that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I also want to applaud Chanel for being honest about her trauma and being honest about her childhood. I think that's going to help a lot of people heal. I think it's going to help bring a lot of awareness to it. And I do think Chanel is fun and I do think she's great, but I feel in her pain. Like, and honestly, to prove it, the last recap I did, I titled it Brooke's Hypocrisies, Chanel's Trauma, before this episode even aired, before she even shared the true, like the nitty gritty of her trauma, because I could feel her trauma through the show. Like when she was doing all the I'm amazing, I'm this, I'm that, blah, 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 it rang hollow to me. I'm like, no. This isn't how you really feel about yourself. This is how you are projecting yourself to be, but that's not how you actually feel internally. And I'm not saying and I don't think she's mean. I don't think she's malicious. I don't think she's calculated. I don't think she's bad. I just think, like she is showing us now, genuinely and authentically, she just had some stuff she needed to heal and clean up, like every single human on this planet. It's just a part of being a human being. But I don't think it has anything to do with Stanberry. I don't think it has anything to do with being black. I don't think it has anything to do with being white. I don't think it has anything to do with being a model. I don't think it has anything to do with whether or not your husband gives you money. I don't think it has anything to do with any of that. I think it's just someone's own unhealed trauma and how they are reacting to it in the world. But I applaud Chanel for being honest and going out there. Brooks, on the other hand, I think that if she actually had been a genuine friend to Chanel, it was a great opportunity for healing. I would have loved to see Brooks say, hey, Chanel, I get it. you're reacting. This is going on. I see some things. This is what I'm saying. Like basically everything she said in the confessional, and even what she said to Caroline Stanberry, if she would have said it in a genuine, compassionate, supportive, I'm here for you, let's unpack this stuff and work through it, to Chanel Ayan, I would have, that's the moment that I would have loved to see between those two women. But I think because I think that would have been such a powerful healing opportunity for someone to say for your friend or your person to say, listen, I see you and I see your pain and I'm here to hold space for you. I think that would have been a much more powerful, impactful moment than trying to be like, oh, as Black women, we always have to defend ourselves. We always have to prove who we are, because that is also very true. That is also a huge fight that we have to have. But I just don't think it was this particular fight. And I think it would have actually been way more it would have been much more powerful for them to have a healing conversation, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. Hey, Miss T. She goes, Chanel's wigs are the only thing she should be upset about. Yo, my candy came through. Hey, Miranda. She goes, I really think it's unfortunate when we relegate female friendships to codependency. We all assume roles in relationships. Everyone can't be the alpha. People do the same thing with Gail and Oprah. I agree that if it's just by default, female friendships are codependency, but I don't think so. Like personally, I think Lisa and Chanel are codependent? Yes. But based on their individual friendship. If you watch the show, anytime Lisa says anything, Chanel is like, yep, you're right. Mm-hmm, yep, oh yeah, they're codependent based on their particular relationship. I don't think Gail and Oprah are codependent. I don't think, and I'll give you another example of the difference between the two. I don't think anybody other than the fake 4 or 5 people on the show that we all know are just creating false narratives and are fake. I don't see anybody calling Garcelle and Sutton codependent. I don't think that's a codependent relationship. They're really close. I don't think they're codependent. But I do think that particularly on reality shows, you do have people who are alphas and you do have people who are betas and you do have people who have codependent relationships. And when the beta is always agreeing with, finished sentences, defending, going to bat for, blindly following the other alpha, then yeah, it is codependent. And also Chanel has a codependent personality. And I say that as a recovered codependent person. Not out of judgment, out of identification, out of a lived experience. I used to be extremely codependent. So when I look at Chanel and what I'm saying about Chanel, it is not out of judgment. It's not out of default. It is out of, I see myself in you. That's why I know why you're doing what you're doing. Chanel is very, very codependent. Very, very codependent. 100%. And there are a lot of female relationships that are not codependent. Hey, Misty. Lisa's definitely the puppet master once she got Chanel to apologize. Bloop. 100%. 100%. Lisa's the alpha. She calls the shots. And Chanel follows. 100%. 100%. Another example. Brooks and Caroline Stanberry are close, right? They're close friends. I don't think that's a codependent relationship at all. No. Hey, Darren, speaking of Brooks, she just spoke on Twitter Space about the friendship between Lisa and Ayan. What was she saying? How it's kind of weird and codependent and stuff? Miss T, didn't. Oh. Miss T, Chanel didn't understand getting money from a man isn't bad unless it's being used to control. Exactly, Miss T. I agree with that 100%. I think that I agree 100%. I think Chanel just in her being, and hopefully, she's gotten help and gotten through it. I think Chanel, just in her being, struggles with her identity. And by identity, I mean like a sense of self and her self-worth and her value based on her childhood trauma. And to be honest, the majority of people, unfortunately, can identify with that. You know, it's amazing if someone is just like, no, I've always known my worth. I've always known my value. I've always known who I am. I've always been healthy and healed and whole. Amazing. If that's the truth, that's amazing. I can't say that. I've had low self-esteem. I've had codependency. I have not known who I am because I'm a human being. And I've worked on myself. That's all we're saying. Hey, Aranda, Chanel responded to what Caroline said, asked. No, Chanel inserted herself in that conversation because it had nothing to do with Chanel. They were talking about Brooks. Randa, she called her and tried to dissuade her from being on the show. Yeah, because Caroline Stanberry said from the get-go she did not like Chanel Iman. Look, this is the thing. There have also been rumors that Chanel and Lisa called Nina and Sarah and was like, don't say anything bad in our confessionals. You know what I mean? Don't be too hard on us. We won't be too hard on you. And then they went hard. This is show business. This is a job. And Caroline Stanberry, and I'm not defending her, I'm just saying what Chanel said in the Vulture interview is not new news. Go back and watch episode 1 and episode 2. Caroline Stanberry was very clear to Chanel's face and to everybody else she didn't mess with her. They have a history of not getting along. We all already knew that, And at that particular time, I do think now, since the women have such powerful personalities and different dynamics, but at the incision of the Real Housewives of Dubai, it was supposed to be Caroline Stanberry's show, because Caroline Stanberry used to be on a show called Ladies of London on Bravo. It was basically like, think about the Real Housewives of London, but it was called the Ladies of London, and it was on Bravo. And then after that show ran its course and Caroline left and she moved to Dubai, she had been shopping different shows. There was another show she had shopped to Bravo that was supposed to be like her and like her gay BFF and some other shows. So when they started the Real Housewives of Dubai, Caroline Stanberry was supposed to be the anchor of the show. Think about Kyle on, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Teresa in New Jersey, Nene in Atlanta. Caroline Stanberry was the first housewife of Dubai, and she was supposed to be the anchor in it. Obviously it's evolved and it's changed, given people's favorites, people's personalities, people's friendships and all that stuff. And that's another big reason why I think that Nina gravitated more towards Stansberry, because I think she wanted to keep her spot on the show, if that makes sense. Hey, Randa, if someone did that to me, I would have my defenses up at all times with that person. No, I get it. You can have the defenses up, but at the same time, remember a couple episodes ago when they were at the like carnival party and Chanel and Caroline had their come to Jesus moment, and Chanel was like, no, like I really do want to build a friendship with you. I want to be friends with you. So there comes a side where you have to pick a side. If you know someone in the past is just like, I don't really rock with you. I don't really like how you respond to things. We're not really friends. But then you decide, we're on the show together. Let's find a common ground. Yes, there's one thing to have your defenses up, but you also have to take accountability when you are in reactive mode all of the time. How do you build any type of friendship? How do you move forward? If you take everything that somebody says as an offense, that's on you. Because in that particular moment, and again, I'm talking about what happened at the table, Caroline was not coming for Chanel. To be honest, she wasn't even talking to her or about her. The conversation was about Brooks. Hey, Valda, Stansberry did seem to pick on her a lot initially. The whole wedding gown at the engagement party was ridiculous. She told them to wear white. See, exactly, 100%. Yes. In the beginning, they were picking on each other. They were going on it. They had their come to Jesus moment. I agree with you. The wedding gown, that was Stanberry being in her feelings. So, right, we have to be equal opportunist. That was Stansberry. That was Stansberry being in her feelings. That was her thinking Chanel's always going to come for me. And we all called Stanberry out on that. We all called her out and was like, no, you're reaching. Chanel came in all white. Her dress was beautiful and cute. You know, why are you coming after Chanel? You're reaching. She's not doing anything to you. You know, she came, she had fun, she looked great. It was a white party. She wore white. What's the problem? She wasn't wearing a veil. Who cares she was wearing a blonde wig? Let the woman wear what she wants to wear. Who cares, right? So we have to be fair. In that moment, Stansberry was reaching. Chanel meant no harm. She came to have fun. In this moment, I don't think Caroline Stanberry meant anything. I don't think she was coming after Chanel. Chanel was just in her feelings and popped off. So that's what I mean. Like, we all do it. We all reach, we all pop off, all that stuff. But I don't think it has anything to do with what they were saying and it had anything to do with. That makes sense. Hey, Young Rich, they are trying to point Ayan and Stansberry as the alpha housewife and the Dubai ladies in Strawberry. Wait, hold on. And the alpha housewife of Dubai ladies like the Ninis, the Gazelles, the Karens, and I honestly see Brooks more in that light. You know what, Young Rich, I agree with you 100%. And that's what I was saying before, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but it seems like my candy canes get me because I don't get the Ayan fever. I don't get it. I don't get the, oh my God, Ayan amazing. I think she's great. I think she's cool, but I don't get the fandom. I don't get the Chanel Ayan fandom. Like, I'm not a fangirl for her at all. I honestly think, do I think Brooke lies a lot? Do I think she's fake? Do I think all of that? 100%. But that's what makes her such a great housewife. And I agree. I think Brooks is way more in the category of like the Nene, the Giselle, the Karens. But she goes all around. She flip-flops. She does this, that, and the third. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Hey, Randa. She was at Darren Hood. What did Brooks have to say? Hey, Young Rich, yes, Ayan's story was very powerful and impactful on what viewers have been asking for Housewives. Exactly. I love that she told her story. I love that she shared her trauma. And it sheds so much light on who she is and how everything is going. Hey, Lala, what's up? She says, hey, Candy and the Candy Canes. Hey, sweetheart, how are you? That's right, you guys. If you're having a fun kiki, whether you agree or disagree, like the video. Why not? It's a free way to support, and I would really appreciate it. And subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Miranda says, no. Caroline said something to her that she reacted to. Even in their second makeup session, Stanberry said she was bigging her up by what she said. Right, Miranda. What Caroline meant by bigging her up was that she was actually trying to, what bigging her up means was that she was actually complimenting her, like puffing her up, bigging her up. She wasn't saying that she was going after her. If you go back and watch and rewatch it, what Caroline was saying was, I was bigging you up. I wasn't, and she even said when they were fighting, she's like, I'm not coming after you. Like, stop and actually listen. Because the thing is, when you get triggered, you're not listening. Your thoughts and your mind is just going. And you could see on Chanel Iman's face, she had gone someplace else. She wasn't listening. She was just talking. And she wasn't even really on topic of what they were really talking about. And by Caroline says bigging her up meant I was actually trying to like build you up. Because what Caroline was saying was, it's okay for a man, your ex, your husband, whoever, to invest in you, to give you money, to you know what I mean, to like be not like dependent in a negative way, but it's okay for the man to invest in you and give you money. That's what Caroline Stanberry was saying. She wasn't knocking Chanel at all. And bigging up means like, oh, I'm gonna big you up, I'm gonna hype you up. That's what she was saying. And that's why Karen was just like, you weren't listening, you didn't understand what I was saying. I was actually bigging you up. Miranda says, I remember the gifting library. Yup. Hey, Randa, right, she mentioned her trauma, but she's still allowed to have a reaction that has nothing to do with trauma. No, I agree. I agree. She has every right to have a reaction that has nothing to do with trauma. But I think that, and again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist. I'm just saying what I observed. I think that the reason why Chanel, I'm not talking every time somebody has a reaction or every time somebody is, pops off, it's rooted in some trauma. I'm just saying in this particular moment, I think it was. I think it was because what she was saying was trying to again prove her value and prove her worth. That's why she kept saying, "Well, no, I have this job and I do this and I'm more successful than you are." That's all ego trying to validate itself. And that is rooted in a trauma, feeling like my father didn't love me like he loved my sister. My father beat me. I had, this mutilation that happened to me. I was they wanted to sell me off when I was 14 and my sister had to save me. Can you imagine what that would do to someone? I can't. That's why I want to make it so, so clear. I have a lot of respect and admiration for Chanel. And thank God nothing like physical or any, like, I can't hold a candle to what she's been through. But I think we all can understand how, as a child, trauma can still affect the way you show up in the world as an adult. That's all I'm saying. And I just I don't think it has anything to do with Stanberry. I think Stanberry's personality type triggers her, but I don't think this situation had anything to do with Stanberry. Hey, Lala, exactly. Chanel and Mom projects a lot. 100%. 100%. Hey, Darren at Randa. Based on what was said, she didn't say anything negative about neither of them. There's no love-hate relationship between neither parties. Yep. Hey, Baka. Baka says, hey. Hey, sweetheart. How are you? Hey, beautiful candy canes. Hey, Lala Chanel, exactly. Diana does the same thing on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She tries to say, yup, that she misinterprets her words in the English language whenever she's called out. 100%. Diana says the same thing, but Diana, boo-boo, we're on to you. We're on to you. Lala Chanel says, absolutely, yeah. Hey, Darren, Brooke said on Twitter that her and Stanberry are friends. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Brooks and Stanberry are friends. They're fine. Trust me, they're fine. Hey, Randa, English is very nuanced. I have a close friend from Finland, married to a U.S. man, been in the U.S. for decades, has 3 children, and still struggles with English. Brooks is uninformed. Randa says, are you saying you're triggered watching Chanel? No, I'm not triggered watching Chanel at all. To be perfectly honest, I have compassion for Chanel because I understand her. I mean, not on that super level. I'm not going to sit here in front like I've been through a piece of what Chanel has been through. Absolutely not. But I have compassion for her. And that's why I can separate and call a thing a thing. I have a lot of compassion for Chanel. I don't think she's a bad person at all. I just think she has some stuff she needs to work through, like the majority of the human beings on the planet. Hey, Darren, Brooks was saying the exact same things you spoke about. Yeah. And that's why I was saying I think it was such a missed opportunity, because I agree a lot with what Brooks is saying. I just wish Brooks would have said it to Chanel's face in a loving and compassionate and supporting way, rather than trying to talk about, the plight of the strong Black woman, which we do have that plight 100%. But this particular instance was not it. And I actually think it takes away and it gets muddled and it confuses the power of this moment if she had actually talked to her about it in a real way. You see what I'm saying? Hey, Randa, she goes, I didn't like her on the Ladies of London either. See, I like Stanberry. I do. I like Stanberry. I'm not saying she's perfect. I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying she hasn't been messy. But we all have liked housewives that have been problematic and messy and messed up. So, yeah. Hey, Rich, Stansberry reminds me of Carrie Wells from Married to Medicine. Really? I don't get that. Why? I don't think so. Hey, Misty, thoughts on Nina? Is she the social climbing? Oh, is she social climbing? Okay. So with Nina, I think that Nina, I do like the fact that Nina has been honest and transparent, right? Like, we can't forget that there was the conversation that Nina said to Stansberry's face. Remember when Nina and Stansberry had their like mommy day out where they like went to the hotel and they had the kids and the French fries and all that stuff? Nina did say to Stansberry face, all my, I've heard all these things about you, but getting to know you, I like you, and how we have all these mutual friends, and they all were like, if you guys actually got to know each other, I think you'd get along, but like we haven't gotten along, and I've heard all this, that, and the third. And then Stansberry was right. She's like, yeah, you're right. She was like, I get socially awkward. I don't really talk to people, and like you didn't seem that interesting or whatever. They had some weird, shady moment, but to each other's faces, they both said, yeah, we didn't mess with each other, and now we're getting to know each other, and now we're getting along. If that conversation had not happened on camera, I would be squinting a lot at Nina, being like, okay, so you went and badmouthed Stanberry to Lisa and to Ayan, and then now all of a sudden you want to be, buddy up with Caroline. I would be squinting too at that. But the fact that we saw Nina say to Caroline's face, yeah, I heard some stuff. Yeah, I didn't like you. Yeah, we didn't rock together. But now that we're hanging out and getting to know each other, well, now I get it. Now, like, whatever. So the fact that Nina and Stanberry had that conversation face to face on camera, I'm not squinting at Nina so much. I do want to know what really happened between Nina and Lisa. I bet you there is something deeper. Maybe something else happened off camera doing with something else. I just don't think that Nina and Lisa's friendship ended, or they're not as close, simply because Nina is chummy with Stansberry. I think Lisa is a stronger woman than that. Like, to me, I think Lisa is a strong, confident, self-assured. She thinks for herself. And that's why I'm like, what really happened between Nina and Lisa where they're not as close? Because I don't think it's just the fact that Nina is now friends with Stanberry. Something else had to have happened. Something else underneath that must be going on. Because I look at a person like Lisa, and I think Lisa makes her mind up about people for herself. So even if, because I do believe, Lisa, that Nina was probably talking a lot of smack about Carolyn and Stansberry, before they started filming and before the show and all of that stuff. 100% she was probably talking some smack, right? But to me, Lisa is a very self-assured, secure woman, where I think that Lisa is the type of person that doesn't judge other people based on what somebody else tells her. I think so. To me, for her to say that's why doesn't track, if that makes sense. And I also think that, so I think Nina and Lisa probably had a falling out over something else. And we have to be honest, Lisa, you didn't stop messing with Stansberry because of anything that Nina said, because the truth is, in the beginning of the season, Lisa and Stansberry were cool. They had no problem. And that was after, clearly, Nina had talked all the trash about Stansberry. So if you didn't have an issue with Stansberry then, the real reason why you have an issue with Stansberry now is because Stansberry made that comment to when you were talking to what's-his-face, Sergio, and she was like, oh, well, is she going to suck your D? And then when Stansberry didn't go to your runway show, that's the real reason why Lisa is not messing with Stansberry. Not anything because of Nina said. Because Lisa and Stansberry were cool in the first few episodes until everything came out. Until Stansberry was beefing with Ayan, until the SUD comment, until the fashion show stuff came out. And she even said it. Lisa even said it. She goes, oh, except for your best friend in RSVP. And she was saying how she felt like Stansberry wasn't being the same towards Lisa because Lisa and Ayan were so close. And Stansberry was saying, oh, Lisa's not being the same towards me because she's so close with Ayan. It really had nothing to do with Nina. So I'm just sort of like, what is the real tea? Like, what really happened there? To me, I think Nina is just trying to play it safe. I think she's trying to run under the radar. I think she's trying to play it safe. I think she wants to keep her spot on the show. I think she wants to not really show herself or her truth. Because if you think about it, we don't really know that much. Like, we know like bits and pieces about Nina, but like, I want to see Nina upset. I want to see Nina popping, not like in a negative way, but like, who really is Nina? She's talked about her dad being sick, of course, and she talks about her business, her family, and all blah blah blah. But Nina doesn't really give. So I think Nina wants to use the show for fame, for whatever she wants to do, and she wants to really, really control her reputation, her look, and her narrative. So I want to know what really happened with Lisa and Nina, because to me, Lisa is too like self-assured to have a falling out with anybody based on what somebody else said. And plus, her and Stansberry were fine initially. Hey, Randall, like you said, it's showbiz. Stanberry is supposed to be the star, but Chanel disrupted that. I would be mad too. Brandon says Nina is an interloper. Miss T, Caroline was the it girl on Ladies of London. She was. She ran that show 100%. Hey, Randa, Chanel had a bodysuit on with a cape. That's not a wedding gown. I agree. I think in that moment, Stanberry, maybe she was in her own feelings about Chanel. Chanel's dress was fine. Hey, Miss T, Caroline didn't protect Chanel. What was she talking about? I don't know. I don't think any Caroline has protected Chanel, Brooks or Stansberry. I think the only person that's protected Chanel probably has been Lisa. Hey, Velda. Caroline S. is very prickly and vocal. She didn't like her. She was. It wasn't a secret. I think Chanel was triggered because of the way she has addressed her previously. I think it's both. I think that this is the thing. I think when you're already primed, you're almost looking for it and you're almost waiting for it, right? So who knows? Hey, Darren, hopefully we'll find out what happened between them at the reunion. I would love that. Yeah, the reunion's going to be good, and I can't wait to see the next episode, everything that goes down. Yeah, I think we covered it all. Oh, I'll say this, a couple of last things. Sergio is cringe. Cringe. I thought it was really weird. I thought it was really awkward. I thought it was stage 5 clinger that he showed up. I didn't like it. I think it was inappropriate. I think if the producers knew and didn't stop it, that's messed up. If the producers helped to orchestrate it, that's even more messed up. I didn't like him showing up. If we flipped the script and it was a bunch of men on a guy's trip and the wife randomly popped up, what would we say about her? You know what I mean? We'd be like, whoa, psycho, stalker, blah, 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 right? For Sergio to pop up on the girls' trip, to me, was weird. It was bizarre. It was not okay. I did not like it. I thought it was just really weird. I think their relationship dynamic is unhealthy, in my personal opinion. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. But to me, the dynamic is very unhealthy. I thought it was really bizarre for him to show up. I think him forcing the baby issue is really weird. But again, you know me, I think that Sergio, in his mind, I think he wants to be Caroline. I honestly think if he could jump inside it and live as her, he would. That's kind of what I think when it comes to him. So yeah. Hey, Randa. Because I think you're right on Nina. She's looking for fame, then she's right leans towards Stanberry. That's strategic. Yeah. I think Nina is basically just like, how can I really just paint the picture that I want to paint for the cameras without getting my hands dirty, riding both sides of the fence. Mm-hmm. Hey, young rich, stay out of women's business. Yeah, Sergio, that was. And it's also like, I'm tired of seeing Sergio. Like, we see more, if not the same exact amount of Sergio than we see of Stansberry. It's too much. It's too much. Like, I'm tired of seeing Sergio. I do want to see more of Lisa's fine ass husband. We could get Lisa's husband could get some more camera time. Cause let me tell you, I love Lisa. I think she's great. I like this is the thing. I think Lisa has the true inner security, confidence, knowingness that Chanel pretends and projects that she has. Like, I love Lisa. I think Lisa really is like strong in a healthy way. I think she's secure in who she is. And I like that Lisa and Chanel are friends, but I do think that there are elements of their friendship that is codependent. And that's not a negative thing. It's just what it is based on different personality types, and those dynamics can change, they can evolve, and they can get healthier. Not all female friendships are codependent, but when you have someone in the friendship dynamic who is a codependent, then it is what it is. Hey, Darren Hood, Sergio, though, plus ladies action equals prices. I would have, you know what? I would have done the same thing. I would have got up and left. Like, I'm tired of Sergio. I'm tired. I heard that the husbands weren't invited to the reunion. Maybe to keep Sergio away. If he pops up, a mess. Hey, Velda, Sergio's like her whining son. She speaks to him like a child, too. I know. I mean, quiet as his cat. He literally could be her son. With the age gap, if she had him really young, she could be his mom. Hey, young, skinny rich. So he wants a breast and a blonde wig. He wants Prince Charming. And those aren't my words. Those are his. He said he was waiting on his Prince Charming. That's what he said. Take that as you will. Hey, young rich, who wants to be the 7th housewife? 100%. Hey, Randa, Lisa's husband is fine. I also like how Nina's husband looks at her. Me too. Lisa's husband is fine. I love that he is so supportive. I love that he invests in her fashion line. And I love that Lisa has the true confidence and knowing that because my partner invests in me, that does not take away my worthiness, my success, my value, or any of that. It actually simply just reinforces exactly who I am, right? Like, that I think is more of what Caroline Stanberry was trying to say to Brooks. And I think that was the point that Chanel missed. Chanel took that point as being like, no, I like my husband, no, like, but I'm still good. I'm okay. I do all this stuff, the starting like spiraling and all that stuff. You notice how Lisa sat there and just kept eating her food, like, yes, cool, yep, let him best. She just sat there unbothered, completely unbothered, not triggered, unbothered, cool as a cucumber. And Lisa and Stanberry are not cool ever since the whole her not showing up at the fashion show and the S to D comment. So it's not like Lisa is cool with Stansberry. Lisa is cool with herself. And she knows that my husband invests in me because I deserve it and that's what I'm worthy of. Not, oh, my husband invests in me, that takes away my success or who I am or my worthiness. You know what I mean? Like, to me, Lisa truly is strong, truly is comfortable in her own skin. If that makes sense. I like Lisa, and her husband is fine as hell. Fine as hell. Listen, Lisa, if he has a brother, let a girl know. Okay, Young Skinny Rich says, is it because Lisa done with the reality thing before, or is it because she's comfortable in herself? Well, I didn't know Lisa did the reality thing before, but I would say there's a lot of people who've done reality TV who aren't comfortable in themselves, even though they've done it before. I think Lisa is authentically comfortable in herself. I think Lisa authentically has self-esteem and loves herself. Yeah. Hey, Young Skinny Rich, sounds like Dina and Artha from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Hey, Randa, I like that Lisa called Chanel out on that I'm more successful comment. Exactly, and told her to apologize to Stanberry. And what did Chanel do? Yes, Lisa, I will do it. Yep, she went and did exactly as she was told by Lisa. She went and did exactly what she was told by Lisa. But I agree with you. I do agree that Lisa called her out and was like, "Hey, listen, like that comment was below the belt." And quite frankly, it wasn't even warranted. Young Word says Lisa was on the original College Hill. How was she on College Hill? Was she cool? Was she confident? Was she not? Has she evolved or was she the same, you know? But I like Lisa. I do. I think just from what I've seen, I've never seen her on College Hill, but just from what I've seen on the show, I think she is truly secure in herself and in her confidence and in everything like that. I think that I think that she knows that Chanel has trauma and pain and codependency. Um, but she still lets her be her and embrace it. Because again, there should not be any shame or embarrassment or stigma around having trauma, from reacting from your trauma, from being triggered, from being codependent, from being whatever. There's no shame or embarrassment in that. It's just is what it is. You're just a human being. And even the most secure and healed and evolved people will pop off sometimes because you're a human being and it's okay. I just think that's more of what it is than any type of, well, Stanberry didn't want me to, oh, sorry, that was my ring. Well, Stanberry didn't want me to be on the show and she called me to dissuade me. And Stanberry, no. I think it would have been more impactful if Chanel would have said, this is the reason why Stanberry triggers me because of this. Because I think that they're compartmentalizing it. It's like the strong Black woman, white woman fragility compartment. It's the Chanel had her childhood trauma department. It's the Stanberry was hating on me from the beginning department. But I don't think that. I think it's just one department that's leading into all the other ones, if that makes sense. Hey, Randa, what do you think about Chanel going to the hypnotist with Sarah? So what I think about that is a couple of things. One, I applaud Chanel for being so transparent and so honest about what happened to her. Because she does talk about it a lot. If you watch the show, she talks about it a lot. She talks about her childhood a lot because I think her childhood is still running the show internally. So I'm really happy that she was talking to someone professionally about it. I'm really happy that she was able to share that with everyone. I think that will help a lot of people who are struggling. I don't think Sarah was prepared for what she was going to say. I do think Sarah might have her own stuff going on, but I do think at the core, I do think Sarah really was there to support and to help. I don't think Sarah was being shady. I don't think Sarah was being like, I'm on my high horse and I'm going to preach to everybody. I think when Chanel was sharing her trauma, you had no choice but to just like connect with her and want to like hold her and hug her and be there with her. So I'm really happy that she did it. I agree with what the hypnotherapist said, where she's like, I'm not going to be able to remove these memories. I'm not going to be able to remove what happened to you, but I'm going to help you be less attached to the meaning that you give to it, less attached to it. Because the truth is, the reason why Chanel and a lot of people who have trauma, big T and little t, and by trauma, it doesn't have to be the extreme of being beat or, abused or mutilated. Like that's like the big T traumas we think about, but we have a lot of everyday, a lot of small trauma that happens as well. Is that the event will happen once and then we replay it and we rethink it and then we continue to re-traumatize ourselves over and over and over again. That's why when we feel a similar feeling, or at least when we perceive that similar feeling, that's when we get triggered, and it's based on the trauma feeling. That's why it's called being triggered. So I'm happy that she went. I'm happy that she was so honest and transparent. I'm happy that might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm actually happy that it was with Sarah and not like Elisa, if that makes sense. Only because of how enmeshed Lisa and Chanel are together. I think that there is a little bit, the fact that there is a little bit of separation between Sarah and Chanel is kind of healthy. Um, I was here for it. I thought it was great. And I'm happy that she was like, I've never done therapy, but I'm open to it. I'm ready to heal. I'm ready to move on. One thing Sarah said, I know what she meant, but I think she could have worded it differently. Like when Sarah was like, oh, now, Ayan gets to heal and become a better version of herself. I don't think when it comes to healing trauma, you become a better version of yourself in that sense. Because to me, that means like you weren't a good version of yourself. I think when it comes to Chanel, but I don't think Sarah meant anything by it. I think what she was trying to say was, I think through therapy and healing, Chanel will become a more empowered version of herself. So then she is more like a Lisa, where she knows her value, she knows her worth, she knows who it is, and she shows up that way energetically, rather than having a billboard around the world telling everybody all of this, that, and the third, right? So I think that I'm excited. I hope she continues her therapy journey. I hope she continues her healing journey. If it's healthy for her, I hope she continues to share it with us. Because again, I don't think Chanel is a bad person. I don't think she's manipulative. I don't think she's calculated. I just think that, like a lot of people, she has just been operating from her own unhealed stuff. Like the majority of the world, if we're being honest right now, right? She's just a human being, and that's just what is showing up. But I'm happy that she's sharing it with us because I think it might help a lot of people. Hey, Young Rich. Well, it was like 2027, 2028. I think so. She was more stuck up. Everyone was against her and fiery. I think she almost got in a fist fight on there as well. She's calmed down since then. Yeah. Well, since then, I'm guessing she like got married and had the kids and all of that. But yeah. Well, Lisa does have that I'm better than you stuck up mentality sometimes. But I like Lisa. I'm here for it. Yay! Is that it? Did we cover everything? Did anything else pop off? Oh, Brooks. Brooks. Missed opportunity, baby girl. Because the thing is, I think Brooks had a lot of great insights. She just should have said it to Chanel's Ayan face and not behind her back. You know what I mean? I think that was a big missed opportunity there. But yeah. Okay. I think we did it. Any other questions? Any other comments? While we wait for any last question or comments to come through, thank you, my beautiful candy canes. And I just had such a fun key. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and you can give a super chat, super thanks, or a really great way to help support that doesn't cost you anything is just to share. Tweet this out, share with a friend, let somebody know, because a kiki is always better with community. Young Richards Brooks reminds me of K. Michelle. Physically, yes, they look so much alike. Do you think personality-wise too? They do. They like literally, and they even sound the same. I agree. It's spooky. It's like twinning or something. Young Rita says, but Bravo's version, yeah, they look alike, they act alike, 100%. 100%. One thing that I do think is weird about the girls of Dubai is that they have so much time for content creators. It's giving Candace Dillard vibes. Like Brooks was on shout out to Kempire Daily. Like Brooks was out with like literally in his live, like chatting during his live feed and like talking to like his subscribers and stuff in the comment section, and I'm like, how do you have the time? You know what I mean? I'm like, how do you have the time for this? I'm like really confused. How do you have the time? It's bizarre. It's bizarre. Hey, Randa, thanks, Candy. Always appreciate your insights, even if I agree with all of it. Good job. Yes, that is right, you guys. Over here at the Candy community, we can agree, we can disagree, but it's going to be a lighthearted, fun, key. And I love the dialogue, and I love the discord. And thank you, Randa. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. And it makes all of us think, right? It makes all of us think. When someone says something that you agree with, good. When someone says something you don't agree with, well, then you have to think about that too. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you being here. Hey Young Rich personality as well as the way they go off. Yeah. Hey Young Rich, I agree. I've never seen a housewife on Spaces, let alone that for many hours, right? Like what are you doing? Like you got all the time in the world to be on Twitter and trolling people on YouTube. I'm confused. And again, shout out to Kempire. He's doing the damn thing. He's fantastic. So yeah. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go get some food. I love you, my beautiful candy canes, and we will definitely be doing the next episode next week, and then after that we'll do reunion. And don't forget to subscribe because we'll be doing Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, we'll be doing more Dubai, we'll be doing Belle Collective, upcoming Potomac, and everything else, and then just hot topics. So I love you guys. Thank you, Felda. Thank you for dropping the candy canes. That's right, you guys. So until next time, take care of yourself and each other. And if you have any unhealed trauma, know that you are not alone. You're a human being, and you're allowed to work through what you need to work through at your own pace. Reach out for help. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's no stigma or embarrassment. You're a human being, and that's all it means. And you deserve to heal and to be happy. And we are sending Chanel Iman lots of love, lots of healing, and gratitude for sharing her story. I think it's going to help a lot of people. So with that, I love you. Bye.
Welcome to Sugar Pills, a practical guide to self-care, where your host, writer, actor, and producer Candy Washington helps you live a more joyful life with a cheeky dash of pop culture news. Be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and join the conversation on Instagram @Candy Washington. Let's go.